Mrs. Harris. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I'd like to congratulate the member for Newcastle North. It's a great speech and a fantastic petition. I mean, my notes here say don't cry, so I might. But Zoe and Lewis, honestly, your aim, I watched your BBC interview, I know your aim is so that we've got Oliver's memory, and you've got him enshrined in Hansard repeatedly today. But the fact that you're able to use strength or find strength to try and help others from your grief is absolutely incredibly inspiring. Don't cry. So, I have been campaigning on childcare for as long as I have been an MP. I have now bothered 3 Prime Ministers, 4 Chancellors, one of them is now the Prime Minister, and I know they all care deeply about this. I want to see action, and I don't think it's right to criticise the government for looking into the issue of childcare ratios, and I'll come to that in a moment. But it is also right that we should be reforming the childcare system. We are spending 5 to 6 billion quid of taxpayers' money on various different schemes that work for some families, it has to be said, but is actually perceived to be failing for many. I'm doing some work as well on the childcare element of universal credit that needs reform, because we've got parents that are saying they cannot go to work, or it's not worth them going to work. We've got mums and dads, absolutely brilliant mums and dads, really feeling the pinch on the cost of childcare. And we know that in the UK, parents are currently spending 26% of their entire household budget on childcare and 20% for single parents. And the OECD average is 10%, so we're at 26%. Just leave it there. In the USA, it's 14%, and in Canada, it's 12%. So I've said, as I said to the Prime Minister the other day in PMQs, we've got to make this system work, because we've got to also make sure that the providers are not going belly up. And there's some fantastic Stroud childcare providers who are incredibly worried at the moment. So this is a great debate to be having. What I want to hear from the government, and it may not be all today, not least because it's the Minister's debut response to the debate, is if we're going to be changing the ratios, what is the safety impact? Show us the evidence. It's evidence, safety. And I know that she's looking carefully at that. Is a change to the childcare ratios going to reduce fees for parents? Is that actually going to happen? Will it increase salaries for early years staff? Because that is something that we desperately need in this area. And will it offer flexibility to providers? We've heard from many of them that they don't want to take up any change to childcare ratios, but ultimately, is more flexibility good for this sector? I'm personally concerned about changing ratios now due to the issues we're facing in the workforce, but I do want this issue flushed out, because it's been going round and round and round in circles since at least 2013, when Liz Truss was in the minister's position, and we know that Boris Johnson, the previous Prime Minister, wanted to look at this. And on the surface, Johnson and Truss are right. England does have stricter ratios in comparison to other countries. For children aged 2, the ratios are from 1 to 8 in France and Canada, to 1 to 5 and 1 to 6 in Australia and Japan, respectively. And there's no limits at all in Denmark, Germany, or Sweden. But the question has to be, as we've heard from many members of Parliament today, whether other countries have more relaxed ratios, in part because their workforce is more qualified to do so. As the challenge set by our parents here today is, it's safety first. So it's wrong to assume that if ratios are relaxed, nurseries in England will suddenly be able to take in more toddlers without employing more staff, because our current workforce does not feel able to do that and does not feel qualified to a high enough standard to look after those children. And child-to-staff ratios could also not be changed without adjusting the space ratios, as we've heard again from a number of members of Parliament today. Many providers are at capacity with the amount of children that they have in the space, and so relaxing staff to child ratios not automatically result in providers being able to care for more children. Nurseries would have to look at other premises, and we know the cost that they would face to do that. I mean, I've got briefings coming out of my ears on this. So these people really care about this, and I would like to thank the NDNA, Pregnant and Screwed, Quorum, Mumsnet, all who have been speaking to parents and providers around the country for an extremely long time. And Gloucestershire Pata, who wrote to me, and we've actually had a Zoom, we had a conversation about what their concerns for Gloucestershire providers. And I'll just read you a short paragraph, and it says, having one practitioner looking after 4 two-year-olds is already challenging, especially in small settings, which many are in Gloucestershire. This may mean that there are only 2 practitioners looking after 8 children in the room. The minute that a child needs in the group one-on-one care, one practitioner is occupied and the other one is off supervising the remaining 7 children. This may happen many times with the children who miss the potty, need changing, along with cleaning the area, or if accidents have happened, and children who need reassurance. And this is in addition to the routine nappy changing that take place and preparation of snacks and the myriad of other tasks which need to happen for a day to run smoothly. I was preparing to go on the BBC earlier, and I was so stressed. My daughter was still in a Halloween costume when I was trying to get out of the house. And I think what the Honourable Member for Winchester was talking about, the ability to man-mark with the parent of 2 children or 1 child, is something, but I take my hat off to the early years educators who deal with multiple children. I wanted to focus on childcare ratios because that is the issue of the day. I know the Minister is completely seized by this. We've had many conversations, and I am taking this constantly up to Cabinet with whoever will listen to me, because we do need wider reform. So I think my message to parents and everyone here, that the suggestion by government that childcare ratios should be looked at was just one part of a wider review of childcare. It was never going to be the only thing. I also think it is right that it is investigated fully so that we can flush out and understand the evidence and be with safety absolutely at the top of the agenda for that. But improving childcare is future building for our society and for our country. It's completely crucial to the economy, to get more parents into work, if that's what they want to do, to improve productivity of this great country. And we must suggest that, or stop suggesting that childcare and early years is an add-on to education. You're in the Department for Education. This is year zero educators we have in our early years settings, and we have to value them and pay them and champion them as much as we possibly can. So